I think that depending whether or not you have a good support system, a mentor can be extremely beneficial. So for me, if I could do this all over again,
That was going to be my next question. What's the one thing that you would do all over again if you had, looking back, could have you started sooner doing something? Welcome to another episode of Get Real with Liz. And today I have a special friend, Eva. And Eva, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you come from?
well, I'm Eva Nelson. I'm a real estate agent with Real Broker, and I moved here in 2017. And I have my real estate license for the 5th year. It's my 5th year. I just renewed
Oh,
my
really?
license.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, Eva, if you don't mind me asking, what made you get into real estate?
That's a great question. When I first got here, for the first 6 months, I wasn't allowed to work, so I had really absolutely nothing to do. And what I always really, really liked about the United States is that when you work hard, that you can make a lot of money. And I've always been interested in real estate. And so I took a little bit until I got my license because I thought that my English is not good enough.
Well, sounds good to me.
Thank you. But when everybody got laid off with COVID, I thought that's a great opportunity to get my real estate license. And then I actually passed the test the first time.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Because not a lot of agents pass their test on the first time. So that means you're pretty smart. So, Eva, you said that you came to the United States in 2017. Were you doing real estate in Germany or as well, or were you doing something else?
No, I was actually a teacher. I was working for the state of Bavaria in Munich, and I was a teacher for 5 years until I decided that I quit. I was actually working for the state, so no one could fire me. But I felt like, if you're not happy with what you're doing, I just feel, before you waste your whole life doing something that you really have no passion about, I just felt like it's a good step to do something completely different.
Yeah, it's like you feel like it's a waste of time because you're not doing something that you love or are passionate about. Your purpose, basically.
Yeah.
So, I know that you said you didn't do real estate in Germany, but how's the market, different here than it is over there?
Well, in Germany, I actually did make an appointment with when I was still with EXP, because EXP is global, and I thought at some point, maybe one day in the future, I would like to do real estate half a year in Germany and half a year here. And what I found out is that Germans are really private, and that was also a little bit in the way when I was prospecting, just to get over that hurdle, because I felt like I'm harassing people. And when I was talking to this broker in Germany, he basically said, what I expected, that all those things, like you can't call people and just ask them for business. You can, you have to wait until they approach you in order to
do business.
To do business, exactly. And it's much easier here in the States to be a great real estate agent than it is in Germany.
And you know how you were mentioning that in Germany you can't just call somebody or be out there to generate business. How has that been, has that been something that affected you here? Like overcoming that fear of like calling somebody because you think you're going to get shut down.
Definitely.
Was that something that was instilled in you just because of your culture, or is it something that is just natural, I guess?
I think it's a little mix of a lot of different factors. On one hand, it's a little bit of culture. If you've been in Germany or if you've been in Central Europe before, then you'll notice that people are much more reserved or are not as friendly or considered rude. But when you grow up there, it's not rude people are just not trying that hard. And when you're here in California, like the customer service, I've traveled a lot in my life, and I feel like in California, there's no better customer service anywhere else because people are really trying. So, and the other thing is, everybody has kind of everybody, has a package to carry. There's like, certain experiences you have that kind of lead to, you expecting certain outcomes. And I felt like when I call people like super out of the blue, they must be mad. And, of course, that's what mostly happens. You get shut down left and right. But when you shift your mindset to, there's people out there who do need your help. And they are not grumpy because you're calling them. They are grumpy because out of, other different reasons. And you just expect something good to happen. You get up and you make your calls, and you just expect, you set your first appointment in the first 15 minutes. And then you just expect that in the next 2 hours, while you're making your phone calls, you will set another appointment. You get a total different outcome that you get when you expect that you get shut down.
And that's a great point. So what made you, what motivates you to keep that positive energy? Because, obviously it's overwhelming when somebody says no, and you keep calling, and they're like, nope, stop calling me, not interested. How did you pivot from that mindset of not being aggressive, not being pushy, to accepting?
That's a great question. It is not easy, and some days are easier than other days. I have to say that Mondays are usually, I feel like people are on Mondays sometimes a little shorter. I feel like the best time to call people is between Tuesday and Friday. Maybe not on Friday afternoon, but between Tuesdays and Fridays. And then when you have a good mindset, and if you can keep it up, how do I keep it up? I just set my time. I know that I'm gonna call expireds right at 8, and then basically from 8 to 9 I call expireds. I find someone that I can call, and from 9 to 12 I make all kinds of other phone calls. Depends on if I have a listing. I do circle dialing, or I call cancels, or I can call old expireds. There's always someone to call. So I basically spend my first four hours of the day really with being on the phone. And when that's done at noon, I feel like, there's nothing that could go wrong anymore.
Right.
I might have an appointment, I might not have an appointment. And depending on how the day goes, then I spend some time at the dog park. And then you always see the same people, and you kind of build little relationships, and it just gets easier and easier. It's just a little bit of a process at the beginning in order to keep that mindset up and be positive and just do it.
Right. Building relationships is very, very important in this business. You said you go to the dog park, you just opened an escrow just a couple of days ago. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, I have. I just opened escrow with a guy that I'm spending a lot of time at the dog park. Like I said, you always meet the same people, and I'm super excited. I mean, for him, that property is not really what I would have picked for him, and I was thinking to myself at this moment, like, how much do you bite your tongue? I mean, I feel like he's also my friend, and he's not really good on his feet. This house has a lot of stairs. So I felt like the urge that, even though, of course, I want to make a sale, but I also want to mention, and this does have a lot of stairs. Your knees are really not the best. But at the end of the day, I do what the client wants. He wants the house, and here we are, open escrow.
Congratulations. Yeah. No, I know being a realtor, it has a lot of hats, You have to be a motivational speaker. You have to be, how you were saying, you're looking out for the best interest of your clients, and you are voicing your opinion and facts. But at the end of the day, it is their ultimate decision on what they're going to do. So, that's the house that he wanted. So, congratulations to him. Eva, I also know that you do mentorship. How important is that, do you think, for any agent?
I think that depending whether or not you have a good support system, a mentor can be extremely beneficial. So for me, if I could do this all over again.
That was going to be my next question. What's the one thing that you would do all over again if you had, looking back, could have you started sooner doing something? So
I feel like I spent a lot of money on lessons that I learned, and one of the biggest lessons definitely is, would I get a coach? Yes, I would immediately get a coach, and then my first coach that I got, I wasn't really happy with that coach, but since I didn't have an experience and I didn't really know what can I expect or what is too much, I'm pretty thankful that he flaked on me so many times, because that made it really easy for me. So I fired the first coach. And
so you can fire your first coach.
I did fire my first coach. and I went on a Tom Ferry event in San Diego. And then I ran into my coach now. And I have to say that he's a total game changer. He really picks me up where I am. My other coach, he kept telling me a lot, you need to do more, you need to do more, you need to do more. And I felt like, I'm doing everything by myself. I don't, and sometimes when you have a bad day and you're right at the beginning and you get a lot of rejection, it's very difficult to keep up the pace.
Right. And the self-motivation as well.
Yes. And then it gets very demotivating if you have someone that keeps pushing you and you just think, yeah, well, I'm doing my best. Right.
You feel like you're not good enough because you're doing everything that he's already telling you, but he's like pushing you more and more and more and more and more.
Exactly. And my new coach, he really he finds the root of the problem.
Oh, that's great.
And then I feel like I get better. I 1% better every day is what we say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've seen your growth, from the beginning to now, and I'm very proud of you. And again, as a new agent, like you said, when did you get your license? 5 years ago? Mm-hmm. What else besides mentorship you could have done differently, or what's one advice that you would give to new agents starting off?
Well, I would say do a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness. That way you see where are your flaws and where are your issues. And if you have a friend that you can ask, hey, please tell me the ugly truth. What is it? Oh, what also really helps me is, when I film myself, I find, how many times I say or, with the downswing. Like there's a lot of little things, little cues that you can find when you do your best to be more self-aware. Mm-hmm. So be more self-aware, get a coach, and be coachable.
Mm-hmm. And then another question that I'm sure a lot of agents have is like choosing the right brokerage. Is that something that you researched a lot, or did you just kind of go with your gut on going with the brokerage that you're with right now?
So at the end of the day, I would say it really doesn't matter too much on what kind of brokerage you are. It really matters the most who you surround yourself with.
Right.
So
environment is key.
What was that?
I said environment is key. Proximity is everything,
Absolutely. 100%. And then I don't know if I should say that, but at the end of the day, find a brokerage with a good split and see if you get good support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are some of the main key factors that a lot of agents have, brokerages, like who are they going to work for? Environment, obviously, you want to make sure that you have a good environment where you work at. The support, You want to have a good backbone support, because if you don't have a backbone, then you have nothing. And third and not least, a split depending on your circumstances and the mentorship that you need. A lot of the new agents have higher split because they're brand new agents. They don't know what's going on, but eventually you gradually move into something that's more profitable for you.
Exactly.
So, and Eva, any other tips that you want to give us, or anything you want to talk about in the market? I know you were saying that language is a big factor, like you were kind of scared about your English, but you sound pretty darn good,
Thank you.
For
Thank you.
just coming here in 2017. Were you taking English classes in Germany, or?
Yeah, everybody has to learn English in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I feel like it took me a good while. Like, people talk really fast, and it's exhausting when you're not used to the language. And it gets, of course, less and less exhausting the more you hear it. And, at this point, I have my moments with certain sentences when I feel like, I don't know, that doesn't sound right. Is that even correct English? And then I have like the urge that I kind of want to say something, but I don't even know if it was right or wrong. And if it was right, then I feel like I sound insecure. So I just throw it out there and hope it's the right grammar. But I have my moments, definitely.
And Eva, I wanted to ask you another question. So, us as real estate agents, like when we start off, we have all like the self-doubt. I know that you said self-reflecting and whatnot. Do you have something or a why as to what motivated you to keep inspiring and keep going with your career, especially when you got doors shut down, like people telling you no and stuff like that? Because in this business, it's not like a regular paycheck, right? So we have to keep our self-motivation. What's your why? What drives you to continue going on?
My why is the lifestyle, is the fact that I can plan my day the way I want to, that I can go whenever I want to, that I can book a plane to anywhere I want to when I feel like it. And I also, I mainly like the lifestyle of being free.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any baggage. I can, I have a little dog, but other than that, I can do what I want.
When you say free, what exactly does free mean to you?
To me, free means that I don't have a boss that looks on the clock and says, you gotta be here from 8 a.m. and until 5, or I can complain. My job back in the day as a teacher, I always felt like this is like a part-time job with full-time payment. But it did not make me happy at all. And when you wake up in the morning and you have to go a place where you don't want to be, that's terrible. That's what I learned from that experience. And being a real estate agent, yes, it's difficult, and yes, the paychecks are sometimes extremely, extremely hard to get. But the payoff of this, when you get a paycheck and then it's a good amount, that just is irreplaceable for me to do what I want and be my own boss. No one can tell me what to do or where to go.
Also, I wanted to piggyback on another issue that we had. Well, it's not even an issue, but it's a kind of like a story. So you had a deal back in the day, and it was like a small deal. And, a lot of agents get discouraged because they're like, it's just a $40,000 deal. But what advice do you give to those agents that have, a manufactured home or a land lot that they really don't want to work on? Do you tell them not to? Do you tell them go for it? What's your advice on that?
I would say 100% do it, because even though you might not make a lot of money on that particular deal, but you can get so much other, you can get, like, you get the client that stays with you, especially people appreciate it if you do a job that really doesn't pay you very well in this particular case, but you still want to help them. Then they refer business to you or they come back. Like, I have another escrow at the moment, and I sold him.
That's where I was getting to.
So I sold him 3 pieces of land, and I really kind of made minus with that, just in order to pay everybody who wants to get paid, and pay a transaction coordinator, and it was just really nothing left, like here and there, maybe $100 or so. And the third time I really kind of thought to myself, oh man, again. But it really paid off. I don't want to be that agent that says, hey, you're not worth my time.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I like doing it. And when you market it right, like I said, you can go door knock. There's a lot of things you can do that you can get out of a cheap deal. So my advice to other real estate agents, if you get it, no matter what it is, do it. Do it.
And that's my advice always. I always say, you never know. You're always a transaction or conversation away from a totally different life. And it's true. We've had clients where nobody wants to give them the time of day because the piece of land is like hours away, right? And when you actually take that time to go show that property, they do feel appreciated, and they do have you top of mind. So in the future, when somebody comes up with a conversation of like, hey, I need an agent. Do you know an agent? And we're top of mind, right? Because we gave them that time of day. Or if they're wanting to actually move on to something else, purchase something bigger or smaller or whatever, you're going to be that person that comes to mind again. So that's a great example for other agents out there that, get so tied up on money, or like a deal that's not, over a certain price range. It's like you're missing out on an opportunity. So, I just wanted to piggyback on that because I knew that you had a client that, came back, and now it's like rewarding, it's like appreciative. So Eva, another question that I have for you is, I know that you mentioned TC. I know what a TC is, but can you explain or elaborate a little bit on, how how we do a transaction? Like, I know that you mentioned that sometimes we don't even get any money, right? Because a lot of the times people think, oh yeah, you're a real estate agent, you're balling, or you're making all this money, but they don't really know like the behind the scenes. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more on that, for example?
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's true. The seller or the buyer, they only just see that chunk of commission that says it on that paper, but they don't know who wants to get paid out of that paycheck. So, and partly, of course, it's a TC, a transaction coordinator. I mean, you don't have to have a transaction coordinator, but I like to have a transaction coordinator.
Well, it makes the process easier and more smooth because it takes away from you prospecting. That person's taking care of all the back end stuff.
Exactly. It's a fantastic help to get stuff done fast, and you have someone who looks over it, so you have a double check basically, like a little safety net. Yeah,
you want to make sure that everything's legit and everything. All the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Exactly.
Eva, do you want to talk about any scenarios, crazy scenarios that has happened to you in the real estate market?
No crazy scenarios. Where should I start? Well, there is a lot of crazy scenarios. You never really know. If you make a random appointment with someone that you absolutely don't know, and then you show up to their house, there's a lot of things that
can potentially happen.
That's
like opening the door without any clothes on.
Having someone not really dressed, or all kinds of stuff. Yeah. You already said my craziest one was definitely someone who was just wrapped in a blanket.
That's crazy.
For the appointment, yeah.
Yes. So for us agents, we always have to be aware and alert of our surroundings because you just never know. Well, you can elaborate a little bit more on that story. You know, thank God you had somebody with you. But in that moment, when we as women, we show up to a property to a complete stranger, and you don't know what's gonna happen, who's gonna be there, or anything.
Exactly. So I did learn a little bit out of that situation. I try to meet with them either at the office or at a Starbucks. Not always do I meet with them at the house, unless you kind of have to judge it a little bit by the conversation that you had, whether or not it's a good idea.
But what do you do if it's a listing appointment? You know, like you have to go to that house.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, mainly, but then you can just grab coffee with them first, talk about it, and then maybe go to the house. But yeah, I mean, mostly I just go to the house and see what waits for me for the most part.
Well, I was just going to ask, you know, like what tips, you know, what learning experience you got from that. For example, you know, like you said, you brought somebody else with you. When you get that feel of like something's weird or whatever, do you ask for ID? Do you ask for a little bit more information? Let somebody know where you're going to be heading? You know, what are some of the tips that you can give other agents?
So I would say I'm definitely not an expert on that. I tend to just go for it, and I would not necessarily recommend that. But I learned from those experiences that far that I would tell someone where I'm going and say, hey, this is the address where I go, and it shouldn't take longer than 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. If you don't hear from me in 2 hours, check on me, call me.
Yeah.
So. And I always have a taser in my pocket. Always looks like a flashlight, so you can go through. You know, even if you just go on a showing or so, it's always good to have something.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's your tip, guys. And Eva, anything else that you would like to say or share with us about your real estate experience, or just anything in general that can motivate anybody that's trying to buy, sell a house, or even a brand new agent that's trying to get into the market?
So for the brand new agents, I would say just keep learning, keep bettering yourself, read a lot of books, be open to be coachable. Let your friends, be open to improvement, and I would say for the buyers and sellers, real estate is always a good thing to have. There's no better investment than having your own house.
That's correct.
So there's no good or bad timing in buying if prices are not.
I know somebody asked me one time, when's the right time to buy a house? And I'm like, right now. Is today the right time to buy a house? Yes, it
Exactly.
is. If the opportunity is there and you're prepared, then that's the perfect time.
Exactly. Exactly. It was a great time to buy.
Eva, I saw that you started a book club.
I did. I started it a while ago, actually. And I have 29 members.
Wow.
It's actually no, it's 28 members, and it's I must say it's difficult. Even though I have a lot of members, it's so hard to get people to actually get out of their shell. So I tried it on Zoom, and I tried it to meet in person. Meet in person worked definitely better, but it's just like one or two people are showing up at the moment. So I will do my best to be consistent with it and do it. Maybe not every week, but when the weather or when it gets warmer, I would like to do it every week and maybe go to the beach. Mainly because I think that I just want to find a group of like-minded people that wants to grow. And I feel like there's not too many people out there who are...
There's a lot of people out there. We just need to find them.
That's right. And that's why I created that book club, because I thought that way I can attract them.
Mm-hmm. And Eva, where can they reach out to you if they want to join that book club?
You can join that book club. The book club is called the Bookworms Bench, and you can actually find it on Instagram, or you can just follow me on Instagram. I am Miss on Real Estate, and it's easy to find. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, reach out to me, send me a direct message, call me or text me, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. Where do they reach out to you if they have any questions or concerns? Eva, I saw really quick on your logos, you always have, you have like a little saying. What does that saying say, and what does it mean to you?
Oh, the saying, my new real saying, that is work hard, be kind. Yeah, I really like that. That's another reason why I really like real. I really like the people behind it, because so far it seems like everybody really cares, and it's not too easy to find sometimes in this business.
And where do you do real estate? What's your main focus? What areas?
Oh, my areas are the whole San Luis Obispo County. I would do Santa Maria here and there, but mainly San Luis Obispo County for sure.
There you go. So for anyone that's interested, those well-minded people that want to join her book club, reach out to her on Instagram or follow her on Instagram as well for her any of real estate needs, questions, concerns, anything motivational, inspirational. Yes. And Eva, would you like to close with a quote or something out of, inspirational, motivational that you just want to throw out there for everyone?
I would say 1% better every day. Like if you just get a little bit better every day, when you calculate it down through a whole year, you're gonna be a whole new person in 1 year, without a doubt.
It's the little steps. Yeah,
it's the little steps.
Yeah, because every day that you do that 1%, you don't really see it until you look back and reflect on it.
Exactly. 100%.
So do your 1% every day.
Make your calls.
Make your calls. And I think that's it, Eva. Actually, you know what? No, I want to ask one more question. So you were saying about structuring, like your time, the first half of the day, you do cold calling or, whatever, on the phones. Is that something that you do on a daily basis? Is that, do you have time blocking that helps you do your scheduling, or do you just kind of go with the flow?
No, I have the time blocked. I like here and there's like Tuesdays we have a team meeting. I hate to say, I don't like to get away from my 4 hours of calling and sending letters, just because I really like to get it done and not have to deal with that particular part in the afternoon. But if there is something like a team meeting, then I'll do another hour in the afternoon. But let's face it, I'm trying to be consistent, but am I really every day? I want to say yes, but there's like little things, like today, for instance.
She's here. I'm just kidding.
Today, I was dealing a lot with my 2 escrows. And I can, it does make me feel bad if I feel like I haven't done a lot of phone calls this morning. Mm-hmm. But I feel like at the end of the day, with more experience, things get done faster. But right at this point, I like to do the things that are most difficult in the beginning. And I was looking at the home inspection. There's quite some stuff, and I want to think about the request for repairs, and those things kind of take some time sometimes for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Looking at those requests for repairs and that home inspection, it is very detailed, because you want to make sure that you grasp everything. And even then, these home inspections are done on that day. So if everything's perfectly fine, it just kind of makes it difficult, when something else changes throughout the process or later on.
Exactly. And I just like to do the things that I also feel like I can concentrate better in the mornings. So things where I really have to think, I do those first thing in the morning. And sometimes then I don't make too many phone calls. Mm-hmm. But I do have a little clicker where I try to make it to 20 people a day.
That's funny. I have a little clipper that Shay Murphy gave me a long time ago. Actually, I still have it. For when we went door knocking, he's like, how many doors did you knock? I was like, I don't know. He's like, I'm going to get you a clicker. So now it's like every time I door knocked on the house, I'll be like, click 1, click too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, now I know how many doors I knocked in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very important. Yeah, no, structuring your day is very important. I know that you say that if, like, for example, today dealing with those 2 escrows and not doing those follow-up calls, it just kind of makes you feel like you're not doing your job. And even though you say, you know, we do have the freedom to do whatever we want and we're not clocking in and clocking out, we still have to structure our business, you know, like how important it is, you know, to structure that business that basically belongs to you. You're in control of your outcome, you know, because at the end of the day, if you don't have an escrow, you know, who are you to blame? Ourselves, right?
Exactly.
So structure is very, very important. I think, you know, time blocking. I mean, we're all over the place. You get calls. You might be making your calls on a daily, right? And then somebody calls you back and it kind of sidetracks you. How do you pivot back to that structure of like, no, wait, I need to focus?
Good question. I feel like I don't have like an amazing answer to that because I get so side distracted. My phone, I feel like it buzzes all the time. Like with emails, not every email is important, but then you want to get stuff done. I really have to put my phone on silent sometimes or on do not disturb in order to really focus on a task because I get distracted and
I think we all do.
yeah.
And then especially, I know you don't have a family, you said, but you have a dog. And you know, oh, the dog needs to go potty. So it's like, you know.
Oh, she is totally adjusted to me. She's like a little mini me. She is not a hindrance at all. She is incredibly patient and actually I take that back. But with me, you know, she just chills. She's just happy, looks outside the window and walks through the house. But she's also a social butterfly, and I am not always a social butterfly. I get tired of people. I really enjoy being alone a lot of time. I just need to recharge from all the chit chatting, and my little Gracie just wants to say hi to everyone, and that's I made a lot of contacts because of her, and I'm really thankful. She's
well, you're in escrow on one of them because of her.
Exactly. Many more to come here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Eva, again for coming in. Don't forget, everyone, do your 1% every day. That's Eva's tip for the day. And again, follow her on Instagram. If you guys want to be part of her book club as well, you know, reach out to her as well.
Yes, follow me on Instagram, Miss on Real Estate or the Bookworms Bench.
Thank you, everyone.